Why is Triple H an overrated booker creative head? Number one, he has the scapegoat dilemma where if everything's going good, Triple H is hailed as the reigning hero, reigning emperor of wrestling entertainment. If everything's going bad, all of a sudden it's TKO's fault. And generally speaking, when it comes to Triple H, there is more bad booking, creative storylines, and so on than there is good. Second reason, the hot and cold push factor. If a wrestler is genuinely being pushed hot off the gate where you think, okay, this person deserves it, they're going to become a main event player, something happens in that situation where it doesn't pan out as such, and that wrestler is forgotten. For example, Damian Priest, pushed, world heavyweight champion. Now, yeah, he's the tag team champion, but it's a thrown together tag team, as generally WWE does, and there's no feud, storyline, anything. Just freebie title reign. Number 3, he gets in his own head in the sense of as he was as an individual wrestler during his wrestling career, in-ring wrestling career. He always put down other wrestlers around him. There's a reason it's called the golden shovel and so on. And now, even though he is a booker, the head of creative, that factor still is in play, because to him, for example, he doesn't want Randy Orton to be third in the sequence when it comes to how many world title reigns there is. For example, I believe it's Ric Flair first, John Cena, then I believe Triple H. So if Randy Orton wins, he has more world title reigns than Triple H, and he's not going to let that happen. Basically, he's booking from a perspective of holding his own spot, where he interjects himself in feuds where, why are you interjecting yourself in the feud? You don't add any value. It basically not only diminishes Triple H's image in the eyes of wrestling fans, but at the same time it could and has taken eyes away from, let's say, the feud or the characters that are in that feud. For example, with him interjecting in the Obafemi Brock Lesnar feud, all of a sudden now you're not looking at those two, and Obafemi, who should be or supposedly is and is getting a major push. Now you're looking at, Triple H. And why? That doesn't affect anything. There is no long-term payoff to that, where Obafemi might feud with him, or Brock Lesnar. Triple H can't wrestle anymore due to health reasons. And another reason is, of course, repetitive storylines. How many reincarnations of the bloodline have we gotten? At this point, it's on par with the NWO, if not exceeding the amount of times the NWO has reformed. And since the initial formation of the bloodline and that storyline, it hasn't even scratched anywhere near the results that initial storyline has gotten or did get. So it's just repetitive stuff over and over again. Another reason is he books for the pop. So it doesn't matter long term or whatever. It's basically, we want to get a reaction, and basically post that reaction on all platforms, social media, to get engagement. And that's a good factor and a good way to approach things. But when that's your main initiative and goal, then you're basically just booking for a pop and nothing else that stays substantial or results in substantial outcomes for the future of individuals or storylines or the product itself. As well, very predictable booking where it's repetitive, and it coincides with the pop factor where, if you've been watching wrestling for years and years, you know how things will turn, how they will end up on a consistent basis. You'll get them right. But when it becomes predictable to the point of definitional predictability, it just loses all appeal, and you're basically watching what you already know is going to happen. It just at the point where it's not fun. it's still not fun. And especially when the storylines and everything is, repetitive, it's happened before, or it's just redundant, or it's not appealing in any way. When you know the outcome, why are you going to stay there and watch it when it's all around not well put together? Another thing is that he does not push genuinely over talent. Prime examples are Chelsea Green, LA Knight. These are wrestlers and who people really love, have gotten behind, and he does not push them. For example, when it comes to LA Knight, it's a factor of a lot of things at play, but I'd say a big factor is that LA Knight has been constantly compared to Stone Cold and The Rock in his appearance and demeanor, and Triple H has never gotten along with those two during his tenure as an in-ring competitor. Now, of course, when he sees that, of course, he wants to put a stifle to it and stifle it in general, and then he does not want anybody basically becoming bigger or better than he was. Basically, he's still protecting his imaginary spot as a wrestling in-ring competitor, which he hasn't been and isn't and won't be. Basically, long term, he wants to always be considered up at the top brass, because if he pushes somebody more and better than he was back in the day, all of a sudden Triple H, for example, isn't top 10 wrestler of all time. When all these other people come and go, he's all of a sudden top 50 wrestler or so on. Just hypothetically speaking, but you get what I'm trying to say. Another big thing is whack celebrities. Putting celebrities in that really don't have a long-term appeal and are basically not even for a big modern audience, people who genuinely won't watch wrestling. Let's say, for example, a streamer like iShowSpeed. He's been involved in WWE recently and, WrestleMania. And okay, they're trying to gain a more bigger audience and whatnot, infuse iShowSpeed's audience into the wrestling audience, WWE's audience. But those people might tune in, check it out, or more so just watch the clippets they've seen, but they won't become wrestling fans. Some universes just don't mix. And long-term appeal, he's a fart in the wind. It's not like you have Mike Tyson, who's a generational talent, an icon in boxing. And for example, he's a namesake. People who don't even watch boxing know him. If you don't know iShowSpeed from actually watching his streams, you don't know who he is. You can't compare the two. And it's consistently celebrities like this who basically just tarnish the product long term. They went from having Muhammad Ali, I believe WrestleMania 1, Mike Tyson with Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold, and these are generational talent. And when it makes sense, it makes sense. You're not always going to have those top tier celebrities involved, but they've always been consistent, or close to that consistency in the past. But for example, WrestleMania 22 this year, just other disgrace. Basically, if you don't know these celebrities or don't love them, you really don't care. And it's come to the point where they're over involved, where they have a spot at WrestleMania, and deserving athletes or wrestlers themselves don't. These are some of the main reasons I see and I feel that he is an overbooked, booker and so on. Basically, if he wasn't married to Stephanie McMahon, he would not be in the place he is right now. A great athlete, icon of that specific sport, doesn't make a great coach. For example, look at Wayne Gretzky. He is considered the greatest hockey player of all time, especially when it comes to statistics in the NHL. He's got like 2,000 some points career-wise, regular seasons. He was a coach, I believe, at one point for the Phoenix Coyotes, and he was horrible. It was one of the worst teams ever, and at the moment, they've had horrible years, some of the worst in the NHL history of the last 20 years, especially when Wayne Gretzky was the coach. So basically, just because you were a great or a good wrestler does not make you such as, when it comes to booking or creative. He was great at putting people down, keeping them down, basically manipulating people. backstage to get what he wanted, title shots, wins, and so on. And of course, he wouldn't have even done half of what he did if he didn't marry Stephanie McMahon. So now, as time goes by, Triple H is being more and more exposed, but WWE stands will still praise him when something goes well. But of course, if it's horrible, it's going to be TKO's fault. Make it make sense.